David asked me if I could do this in 5 minutes, and I told him I'd do it 2 or 3 because I did it to Scotty in the bathroom earlier. That totally reminds me. And this has, I want to make this very clear, this has absolutely nothing to do with private option. Nothing. Private option is a totally separate issue from the state exchange. 2 years ago, many of you were still here, AFP had invited Michael Cannon with the Cato Institute to come and testify to the Senate committee about the state exchanges. The reason why it was important for states not to establish state exchanges is because if a state chooses not to set up a state exchange and they go on the federal exchange, much like Arkansas has, except for Act 1500, our employers and our citizens are not subject to the employer or individual mandates. Did you hear that? If we do not set up a state exchange, our employers and our citizens are not subject to individual mandates. Those mandates were established for states who set up a state exchange because the mandates are paying for the state exchanges. Okay? If the federal government if the federal government has to set up the exchange for the state, our citizens and employers are not subject to the mandates. There is a court case coming to the Supreme Court in March on this issue. This case is not about the constitutionality of Obamacare. This is different from the other cases that have come before the Supreme Court on the Obamacare issue. This has to do with the fact that the IRS way overstepped their authority by actually changing the letter of the law and the intent of the law. You can find this in section 1311, 1314, 1411. There's various sections in that piece. If you want to read the legislation yourself, you can. But the lower courts have already ruled that the IRS has way overstepped their authority and cannot force individuals in those states who refuse to set up an exchange to pay the mandates. Our state is quickly moving forward to set up a state exchange that services only 35,000 people. Okay? If we do not set up a state exchange, we will free over 750,000 Arkansans from paying the mandates. Folks, these are taxes. The Supreme Court rules these were taxes. We have a lot of citizens in this state who do not want to carry health care because they'd rather pay cash basis because they never go to the doctor and do not understand why they need insurance. And I'm a licensed insurance agent in this state, sells health care. Many have told me, why should I have to have insurance? I never go to the doctor. I'll pay the penalty. The problem is that penalty is getting more and more and more every year as it goes by. So it becomes imperative to our state elected officials to free as many people as they can. And the way to do that is to repeal Act 1500. And I've got a lot more information if you want to talk to me afterwards. I'll be happy to share it with you. But if you're a legislator and you're sitting in this room, I ask you to co-sponsor this bill with Mary Bentley, carry it on the Senate side. We're behind you 100%. This is a way that if more and more states, and there's only 14 that went with the state exchange, they'll be forced to switch to federal subsidy because it makes our state more competitive because our surrounding states didn't go on a state exchange. It makes us more competitive in attracting new employers to our state and creating jobs here. And I think as a Republican legislature, that needs to be a focus of yours. Yeah.
What's the bill number in Mary Bentley?
I don't have a bill number from her yet. It's JMB. Shoot, I had it, but I don't have it right now. She does not have a bill number yet. I think she was filing it today.
Okay.
But she did send me a copy of it, just the preliminary, and basically what it does is wipes out Act 1500 and says we will not create a state exchange.
And this is, and also to clarify, this is, what you're saying is true. I've been talking about it until I ran the face the last couple of days, but it's only if the Supreme Court rules consistent with the lower courts. Is that correct?
No.
No. I mean, the Supreme Court's going to.
Well, if the Supreme Court says that the federal government, the federal subsidies that the federal exchanges, excuse me, I get those words interchanged, can do the subsidies, then yeah.
Right, that's my point. So as long as they rule consistent with what the lower court's already decided.
But the lower courts have ruled against the Obama administration on this issue.
Right, I'm clear.
That's right.
Yeah, so we don't set up the state exchange, or we repeal the idea of setting up state exchange. There's also HB 1152, which actually funds it on page 12, line 33. HB 1152. It's in
Joint budget.
Joint budget, okay. And I would say, you talked about cash basis. It's actually, it affects me personally, because I was uninsured as of the beginning of January, and I recently got insurance. And the baseline of what they wanted me to pay with an Obamacare plan was outrageous. So I found a policy, a Blue Freedom policy, where I get to pay much, much, much less, but it was these giant flashing letters, hey, not approved by Obamacare, maybe subject to tax. And so I just wonder how many other people out there want this federal boot. You say 750,000 is
it would, yeah, and over 57,000 of them are state employees that would be freed from this tax.
Yeah.
Okay? So if there's 4,004 employers in the state with over 50 employees, okay? That's over 750. That's over 700,000 just that section alone. Then you add in the number of state employees, then you're looking at well over 750,000. I think it's over 760,000 compared to the 35,000 the state exchange is going to service. Because you're always going to have that population out there that says, I don't care what the federal government says, I'm going to work around it, I'll pay the tax, I don't care.
Right.
But because these subsidies has to do only with people who make between 100 and 400% of the federal poverty level that are eligible for Obamacare. Like my husband and I are not eligible because he makes more than 400%. So we're being dinged big time on the premium.
One more question.
I noticed you said state employees, teachers tell me they're not state employees, so how
They
does
are.
it affect teachers? They are included in this.
Teachers are considered to be state employees because the state determines what their insurance is going to be.
Well, it's not, that's what the big fight of the teacher retirement crisis is, that they're separate, and so the question was, should you bring them in? But I think that they would still be subject to this in that they're part of the organization bigger than us.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, Jackie. I think that Mary is going to run that, and which group? Which committee will she run that in? Public Health, and it's probably, it would run on either Tuesday or Thursday next week. And we'll just have to keep everybody alerted to that. We'll get a note out to everybody. Right